It's past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair. And again, many thanks to Matt Murphy for filling in while I took a few days off between Christmas and New Year's to catch my breath and get ready for 2024. I think we're in for a very, very interesting time in the weeks ahead. We are only 13 days away from the Iowa caucuses. That's right, 13 days. So it's time to get serious about following 2024, and we certainly will do that on the show today. But I want to start out with a story that's more locally based. And apparently, if you're in your car right now and you're looking at your phone, stop it. Well, first of all, you shouldn't do it. It's just not a good thing to do. But if you are caught with doing what the police call distracted driving, you could find yourself in a world of hurt in a very quick way. There is a new bill that's in effect today. It's called they got the name Eddie Conrad Act, named after Wilson County business owner Eddie Conrad, who was killed in July of 2020. Apparently, Conrad's vehicle, according to the Tennessee Star, was hit from behind by a distracted driver on Sparta Pike. It pushed his vehicle into oncoming traffic. Conrad died after being removed from life support at Vanderbilt. Others in the car did survive. He did not. So listen to this. If you are found to be a distracted driver, and I think the law enforcement is going to pretty harshly enforce this law. Drivers, if you're under the age of 18, you would receive 7 points added to your driving record if it is their second or subsequent violation of using a wireless telecommunication device while driving. Now, holding, reaching for, or using a cell phone while operating a motor vehicle is now prohibited under current law in Tennessee. You cannot reach, you cannot hold a cell phone if you're in your car. You need to have it hooked up to a Bluetooth or something, but you cannot look at your phone. You have to have it setting aside somewhere. The penalty while using a cell phone while driving, I guess if you don't use a hands-free device, is a Class C misdemeanor, subject to imposition of a fine not to exceed $50 for the first-time offenders. For 3 or more violations of the law, and you're an adult, or if the violation results in an accident, the fine increases to $100. The new law comes as a recent study showed Tennessee is a top 10 state for having the most distracted drivers. So that's a serious thing. You can have your license revoked if you're caught driving distracted 3 or more times in 1 year. And again, if you're under 18 years old and you're caught texting and driving 2 times in a given year, you can have your license suspended for 6 months. That's what's in this new bill. And by the way, I'm telling you, it's not a bad idea. Honestly, we've all gotten sort of lackadaisical about being careful when we drive. And we do have, lives that are lost because people are on their phone. I see people going down the road. I don't know, Chris, do you ever see this? You're going down the road and you notice that they're kind of weaving and you think, well, I don't know, are they drunk?
Have they been drinking? Yeah.
But you know what? Often what you do is when you pass them or you get a chance to see what they're doing, they're on their phone.
Yep. A lot of times even looking, like the phone is down in their lap area. They're not even looking up at the road in the direction. They're looking down at their phone.
Yeah, once I get into the car, it's plugged into my Bluetooth, and then it comes up on anything that I need, like navigation that's on my phone. It comes up on a screen in the middle of the dashboard. Mm-hmm. But I try not to pick up my phone anymore, unless I'll tell you what I do. I'll wait until I can pull over, and pull into a parking lot or off to the side of the road or any place where I can get out of the line of fire if I really need to focus on my phone for a moment. So, there's really no reason why you should be on your phone while you're driving. You're driving a device, a vehicle that can kill people. I mean, it is a lethal weapon if not handled properly. So, it's a pretty tough law in the state of Tennessee, but I want you to know right now that you shouldn't be looking at your phone while you're driving, and be aware that starting today, I guess, in the state of Tennessee, this law is now in effect, and I expect that police officers are going to be enforcing distracted driving laws pretty seriously. You don't want to lose. You don't want to lose your license. You don't want to. You don't want to have it suspended. You don't want to have to pay the higher fines. You don't want the points on your insurance, and it can really go up in a big hurry if you are doing that. So there you go. Other things, by the way, there are other things that are going into effect today in the state of Tennessee. You know, you need to know this stuff, because if you otherwise, you know, how would you know if you don't take a moment to do this? One of them is the James Dustin Samples Act. It is in effect in honor of a fallen firefighter from Cleveland, Tennessee. His widow, Jennifer Samples, testified in February of 2023 about how PTSD from her husband's job as a firefighter ultimately drove him to take his own life. Let me just say, the PTSD for first responders is a serious thing. There are a lot of people who go through this. And you see things when you're a police officer. You see things when you're a firefighter and you're a first responder. And it piles up. One of the things I read about PTSD is that it's cumulative. So if you have one incident, okay, maybe you get through that, but then you have another incident where you see things that you can't unsee. And believe me, firefighters and police officers, this happens quite a bit. And it's cumulative. And so the idea here is to give a program to cover costs to an employer providing workman's compensation for firefighters to take time off and seek the help that they might need. His widow says it's going to save careers, marriages, families, and relationships. So there you go. There's Abriel's Law, which is in effect. It provides training for Tennessee court system to help them better understand and detect child abuse, removing them from domestic violence situations. Additionally, now, if you have a breathalyzer interlock that's installed on your car because you've been drinking and driving, the DUI offenders will now be required to put in an interlock that tracks the GPS movements of the car. Lawmakers did this because they suspect if a lock's been tampered with, they can find out where and if the car was driven in a time that it should not have been. The SB 105, that required Tennessee Department of Safety to waive the knowledge test and accept alternative requirements for service members applying for temporary learner's permits. The bill applies to members of the National Guard or Armed Forces Reserves as eligible applicants to get their commercial learner's permit and get started, because, you know, we have a shortage of drivers right now in this country, and that helps get some people who come out of the military who may have been driving, you know, some big old vehicles, gives them sort of a leg up so they can get their commercial learner's permit if they're so inclined to do so. SB 268 is the Money Transmission Modernization Act. It seeks to more effectively utilize regulated resources to protect the public financial crime when it comes to the transferring of funds. There's one. Here's one. The bill, SB 360, authorizes the Tennessee Department of Safety to create a voucher program to offset the cost of taking handgun safety courses for the first time. Requires the department to report the number of courses taken using vouchers to the Senate Judiciary Committee. The bill would reimburse those taking part in the voucher program up to $30 for their first course. You don't have to have a permit to carry in the state of Tennessee, but the lawmakers thought that there was real upside to having some training before people go out if they haven't had training. And so if you want to go through the training, you can get your $30 back. In other news around the state of Tennessee, we have learned, speaking of the state legislature and the things they do, we're getting ready to start a new session. Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally of Oak Ridge, who is the highest ranking person in the Senate, will miss the opening weeks of the upcoming legislative session. Apparently, he's recovering from ankle surgery. He says, I will be absent for the first few weeks of the legislative session. I'll be finishing up my recovery and physical therapy at my home in Oak Ridge. While I will not be physically present, I will be monitoring proceedings remotely and will be in daily, if not hourly, contact with Senate leadership and staff. I look forward to returning to work in person as soon as I am able. I expect we're going to see more shenanigans from the Democrats. They're going to be disruptive, and I think it's going to be a chaotic situation like we saw last year. Maybe not in the Senate as much as in the House. We just had a big blowout New Year's Eve event here in Nashville. Would you believe this? An estimated 215,000 people were downtown in Nashville, and I am so glad I was not there. But they just say farewell to 2023 and to celebrate the coming new year. That's right, 215,000. The previous record was set in 2022 when an estimated 210,000 people were in attendance. And, of course, the highlight, and I think the reason that there were so many people there, I'm pretty sure this is it. Chris, I don't know for sure, but it seems like to me it probably is right, that the main reason people were there is because Freddie O'Connell, mayor's Nashville, was a featured DJ.
Oh, yeah, he was dropping some sick beats.
Yeah, he was. That's what I heard. Anyway, it was a big deal. I mean, golly, 215,000 people. I was down there when it was up around, I think, the last time I went to the New Year's thing, it was, I think, somewhere around 175, 150,000. It has really grown. It's become a destination for people.
Madness. I'm glad I stayed as far away as I could.
I mean, that's a lot of people packed into a pretty small area, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. I'll tell you some place where there aren't as many people as there once were. That's called a segue there, Chris. Memphis. They have looked at cities that are losing population, and Memphis is losing population in the state of Tennessee. Ranked number 27, its population dropped nearly 5% from 2017 to 2022. In the same time period, Nashville and Chattanooga increased nearly 3%. Knoxville at 5%. The biggest increases in the state of Tennessee, Clarksville, you're not going to believe this. This is how fast Clarksville is growing. It's up 15.5%. That's a lot of people. And of course, the all-time champion is Murfreesboro. And if you've ever driven in Murfreesboro, you have no difficulty believing this. It's up in that same time period, nearly 20%, 19%. That is unbelievable. But Memphis ranked number 27, dropping 5%. I mean, why? I would suspect people are moving out of Memphis because of the crime in that state. I mean, that's what most of the places that seem to lose population are run by they're blue cities in not necessarily in red states, but like this Nashville's a red state, but there are these islands of blue in places like Memphis and Nashville and other places. But it's a blue city generally that has a big problem with crime. People are moving out. They're voting with their feet. They're going elsewhere. And in the state of Tennessee, Memphis is the only city of any size that has lost population. And I suspect it's because people have found it to be not a very pleasant place to live these days. And I can't say as I blame them. If you don't feel safe, you're going to vote with your feet. You're going to move elsewhere. So just a few things going on in our Tennessee report here today. But again, reminder, if you're in your car right now, do not be picking up your phone because you can get slapped with a pretty good ticket. And if you get slapped enough, you can lose your license and you're definitely going to pay higher insurance rates. Just leave it alone until you get where you're going. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. That's Joan Jones. She's in this afternoon for Mac Maury. So we will not be having the Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports today. And I had a lot of things I wanted to catch up with him on.
Big sports happening.
It was a lot of stuff going on this since I was last with you. So it'll be interesting to hear Mac's take on it when he returns. A little under the weather. Chris Webber is here, however. How was your well, you worked. You didn't take a vacation a week.
Not the whole week. I did have a few days off.
How was your holidays?
It was really good. Yeah, no complaints. Just kind of stayed close to home. Had some family come in for the New Year's weekend, and it was just nice. Got a low key.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty good at my house. We had a sort of low key as well. I don't go out anymore. I just can't fathom the idea at my age of going out and fighting.
That's
with 210,000, 215,000 people, and even though I would really love to hear live music and the entertainment's great, I'm past that point. And it's amateurs night. And honestly, I remember as a young reporter, I used to go out and just sort of cruise around when I was just getting into the news business on New Year's Eve and listen to the police scanner and chase down whatever was going on. It frightened me, actually. I mean, by the time you start wandering back to the house about 1 o'clock in the morning and people are coming out of the bars and wherever they've been, I mean, it is scary.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really be watching, I remember driving across the town of Odessa and nearly being run over 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I decided, I don't really have to be out here. I think I'll just go back home. And since then, I've been very reluctant to get out on New Year's Eve. To me, it's not worth it. I rather like watching, whatever's going on with the TV and the different celebrations. I have friends who contacted me. They were actually in Times Square.
Oh, wow.
And I've never done the Times Square thing. I don't think I ever want to do that.
Mm.
And I also felt like this time, with all that's going on in the world, I don't know that it's particularly safe to be there, but thank goodness nothing happened. It went pretty smoothly. I got a bird camera for Christmas.
Oh, one of the, it's a bird house with a camera in it?
Yeah.
I've seen those. That looks cool.
It's a little plastic bird house. And Chris, Dawn's son, gave it to me. And you put a little camera in it and you hook it up and you put bird seed in it and the birds come. And then when the birds land to eat the seed, it takes a picture and sends it to your phone.
Yeah. That's so cool.
I'm waiting for that to happen.
And I'm sure you'll be giving daily updates on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I haven't seen no birds.
No birds yet.
Let me just check right now because I haven't seen any birds.
It'll take them a while.
No birds have actually come. No, it says nothing to see yet. They haven't found it.
Just give it time. They'll find it.
They'll find it. And I'm afraid that probably the squirrels will find it as well. That's the bane of any bird feeder is the squirrel.
Yep.
And so I'm anxious to do that. But just me and Cabana Wife and Grogu and Little Solo,
boy,
is becoming quite the chunk.
You have it was really kind of surprising to me. I saw your video that you posted on Facebook the other day. You have a dog all of a sudden.
Yeah,
it went from just this tiny little puppy that all it does is just kind of roll around and eat.
Yeah, just a big lump.
Now
now she's up and running open. and terrorizing the house, which is what these dogs do. The last thing that happens for a French bulldog, and I think it'll probably happen in the next week or so, is when they're born as puppies, their ears are not up which is the thing that. French bulldogs are known. They're sort of cute because their ears are always standing straight up, right? Well, that happens, I think, in the next week or so. But, yeah, she's, I think, 5 weeks today.
Wow.
5 weeks, and she's gone from just a few ounces to weighing 4 pounds.
Good grief.
Mama Grogu has fed that child well, I'm telling you. And they're getting along just great. I mean, they now, for the first time since Little Solo is motoring around a bit more, Grogu is now in the mood to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now Solo just wants to eat. And that's the main reason she's chasing Grogu around. She's just hungry all the time. But Grogu takes it as play, and it's been sort of fun to watch them sort of play around. And she's turned out to be a great mom. A great
Nice.
little mom.
Yeah, real nice.
So anyway, everything's good. We're ready. I did take the time off because I wanted to have my head down and be ready for the upcoming election season, which I think is, part of what we really do here at Super Talk is bring you that and bring you the analysis. And I have a feeling that it's going to be a pretty rock and roll election season. On some ways, it looks like maybe the decision's already made. Trump versus Biden. Here we go again. But I just have this feeling there's going to be some tosses and turns and some unexpected developments. And, I think maybe by the time we get to February and March, we may have a completely different character to this election. What if somebody, runs as an independent who has some real name and some cachet? That would be interesting. That would scramble the numbers. What if you had a situation where Joe Biden was not the nominee, which I think, and apparently so does President Trump. He doesn't think Joe Biden's going to be the nominee either. So who would it be, and how does that change the numbers? There's so many things that could change, and so many variables out there. I just think it's going to be one of the most remarkable election seasons. So I'm rested and I'm ready, and I am nose to the grindstone until we get our nominees straightened out and we know how this thing's going to shape up. Right now, 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, we are almost to the end of hunting season, and still time for you to get that gun safe at DT McCall's. Now's the time to take action, and gun safes are indeed sales tax free. So, you know, when you're not in your tree stand, you should have your guns safely stored in a gun safe from DT McCall. If you don't know, DT McCall's is the largest Liberty Safe dealer in Tennessee. Why? Free delivery and setup. That's right. Others charge $500 at least for delivery and setup of the big models and $300 for the smaller models. DT McCall and Sons delivers every safe free every time period, never a setup charge. Security is so important these days, and here's the thing you need to think about. The gun safes can be used for valuables, cash, jewelry, important documents, wills, deed, car titles, whatever you need to keep safe from theft or fire. So save some big bucks now on your gun safe when you shop at your local DT McCall's. Shop at your local DT McCall's now, or go to dtmccalls.com for locations and information. It is 3:38 now on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. Happy New Year to you. It is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Don't make a mistake of writing 2023 on your checks. Nobody writes
checks.
I don't. I have to write one every once in a rare while. Young people don't even know how to write a check.
No.
No,
Imagine giving them a check register and telling them to balance their checkbook.
Yeah, I haven't done that in ages. You know what? I guess I'm just trusting that it's going to be right.
Same. Yeah.
I do watch it to see if there's any, something I get charged for something that I wasn't supposed to get charged with. But the bank that I've got, they're so hinky about that kind of stuff. You can barely use the debit card. I mean, anything you try to buy online, it says, nope, we're not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's better than being the complete opposite way.
Well, I have no complaints about the Bank of Two Caitlin's here in Watertown. They're awful good to me. I was by there today, actually. Let me see. You know that this Jeffrey Epstein thing is about to get pretty interesting. We could see as early as today. I've been looking online. I've not found that it's been released as yet. Some flight records have been released, but there are whole kinds of documents that are supposed to be released that will perhaps reveal some 200 names linked to Jeffrey Epstein. This is from The Guardian. Nearly 200 names connected to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and their sex trafficking conspiracy could be released by a New York judge as soon as Tuesday, exposing or confirming the identities of dozens of associates of the disgraced financier that until now have only been known as John and Jane Does in court papers. A deadline for objecting to the unsealing of the names passes at midnight on Monday, nearly 9 years after the victim, Virginia Giuffre, filed a single defamation claim against Maxwell, a daughter of the late British press baron Robert Maxwell, in 2015, and that in turn produced names and legal depositions. Year later, in 2016, U.S. District Court Judge Robert Sweet rejected Maxwell's motion to dismiss the case, finding that the veracity of a contextual world of facts was more broad than the alleged defamatory statements, and that Giuffre was a victim of sustained underage sexual abuse between 1999 and 2002. Now, from that wellspring came the names that are about to be released, but also we know that there was a civil lawsuit that came out of this between Giuffre and Britain's Prince Andrew, which was settled for £12 million. I don't know what that translates into real American dollars, but it was a lot. The prince has said that he didn't do anything wrong, but he paid $12 million to make it go away. How about that? So what do we know? We already know the identity of one of the John Does. It is none other than former U.S. President Bill Clinton. It is identified by ABC News as John Doe number 36 and is mentioned in more than 50 of the redacted filings, according to court records. Now, Giuffre has not made any allegations of wrongdoing by Clinton, but maintains she met him on the island, which Clinton says he has never visited. Personal flight logs kept by one of Epstein's pilots show that Clinton flew extensively on the Lolita Express, trips to Paris, Bangkok, and Brunei after he left office in 2001. Lawyers for Giuffre's contacted legal's representative about a deposition, but they responded the testimony would not be helpful, and he never did have to give a deposition because it was decided by the judge that it wasn't really relevant to the actual case. There's been a lot of rumor about what Clinton's involvement was with those two, with Epstein and Maxwell, but nothing has ever been confirmed. He says, Clinton said in 2019 he had never been to Little St. James Island or Epstein's ranch in New Mexico or his residence in Florida, and knows nothing about Epstein's crimes, but has used the plane quite a bit. Epstein's scheduling diaries that found their way to the Wall Street Journal this year revealed the extent that the financier continued to build his network. There was the director of the CIA, William Burns, at the time, Kathleen Rimler, White House counsel under Barack Obama. Lesser figures included the left-wing professor and activist Noam Chomsky, billionaire venture capitalist Reid Hoffman. It's Lawrence Summers, former Harvard president and director of the National Economic Council under Obama. Woody Allen, Bill Gates, a former Norwegian prime minister, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, and former Barclays chairman Jess Stanley. I also saw Itzhak Perlman, the noted violinist. His name was there. He traveled there with his wife. Some people have let it be known that they were on the plane, sort of a preemptive strike, saying, here's what I was doing. And some of them also said, I was traveling with my wife, so there was nothing inappropriate that happened. But this story, I tell you, has got a lot of stuff that I think is going to be pretty bombshell stuff. And again, you want to stay with us because when this stuff comes down, it's going to take reporters a few minutes to go through it and figure out who's, How Jane Doe number 2 or John Doe number 17, who they are and what they are accused of. It's got to be pretty interesting. We said, where are the names? Well, the names, we are told, are coming. In a related story, this is pretty weird. Jeffrey Epstein's brother demands that for New York City prison health records on the day of Epstein's death, and has been told they do not exist. He just wanted to see what kind of medical records there were. Listen to this. It's been revealed now, according to the postmillennial.com, that Jeffrey Epstein's brother Mark attempted to obtain documentation from the night the convicted criminal allegedly killed himself, but was told by government employees that the records he sought did not exist. Most of the important documents, the report written by the emergency medical service team that moved Epstein's body out of his cell at the Manhattan jail, were nowhere to be found on the computer system. As of right now, they're telling me you can't find the reports. Not for the 10th of August, 2019. No, the employee replied, it's not in the fire department database. I don't know why. According to the New York Department of Health Bureau of Emergency Services, a document includes information such as documentation of the event or incident, the medical condition, treatment provided, and the patient's medical history. When pressed further, officials said that Epstein may have been taken directly to the morgue, so it may not have ever been a fire department account. But that apparently has been shot down because they have photos of his brother in the hospital, so he must have been taken to the hospital first. When the employee brought up the evidence, supervisor pointed out the photo doesn't generate documentation, and the fact that fire department personnel were there doesn't mean a report was written. They told me they did, he fired back. I spoke to them, and they were the ones that suggested I get the PCR report. Since I heard it with my own ears, I believe them, and I don't know why someone played with the computer and it's not there. So I don't know. What happened to that document? There's so much about this whole thing that just doesn't add up, from the fact that, the camera system didn't work. There are the people that were supposed to be going by and checking on his welfare. They apparently fell asleep and didn't know what happened. There were no witnesses. This thing just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. But I don't understand why those documents from the fire department in New York City, if they responded, would not be available. But apparently if there were ever documents, they have been done away with. Just another mysterious thing here. But it's widely thought that as these names come out, it's going to be deeply, deeply embarrassing. It's already been embarrassing to Bill Gates. I think his reputation is dramatically different in the world today than it was before we found out about all this. It certainly has been costly to him in his personal life. Not that he cares because he's got billions of dollars, but nonetheless, it is deeply, deeply disturbing to start to read some of these things. And those numbers, the numbers of people who are going to be identified apparently starting today could be very large. And when exactly it's going to be released, we're not sure. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but soon. Soon, we are told. I don't think there's anything going on out there that would, at this point, stop the names from being released. It's just a matter of when the judge wants to release them and in what form and in what way, where they will be found. It will take reporters some time to go through the names and figure out, okay, this person was identified in court records as John Doe number 36. Who is that? Well, that's Bill Clinton. What is he accused of? Nothing. Okay. What do we have for John Doe number 38? Who is that? And then I go through the court documents and find out the things that they're accused of. And it's going to be, I think, big names, surprising names. A lot of, I think there are a lot of politicians, because this guy was all about being around and courting people who had power. And in America, people who have power are people who are elected officials, it would seem. So watch this space. It's going to get pretty interesting as the things come out. And again, when we get the names, We'll try to put it together for you. I know that people are really interested in this. I have been too. But many of the questions that we have had apparently will be answered if everything goes the way it's supposed to go, the way the judge said it should go, anytime now. It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, if 2024 is the year that you want to get a pole barn built on your property, you need to talk to the folks at Stoltzco. They have the information you need. They are known for exceptional quality, craftsmanship, and fair prices. They can build your new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. That is the Stoltzco difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. It can function as a classic tool or work barn, a garage, even a place to live, because flexibility is the key. What they do is they take the classic post-frame barn look, and then they build them with the modern materials that bring you more reliability and longer life for that barn. Techniques to give them a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. Do me a favor. Just go to their website, stoltzco.com, and let me spell it for you. stoltzco.com, and you'll see some examples of some of the things they've done for other customers, and then you're going to want to give them a call. Here's the number, 615-622-5992. Listen, Stoltzco is where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable. Learn more by going to their website. Again, that's stoltzco.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
It is 55 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. We're glad that you are back with us after hopefully a nice holiday period. I hope you had a great Christmas season and a wonderful New Year. Did you eat your black-eyed peas, Chris?
Oh, you know I did, and my collards.
Yep.
And my my pork sausage.
Ooh, I didn't know that was a thing.
I don't know if it is or not, but it was in there.
Just in there.
Just for good measure.
We had jambalaya, homemade jambalaya last night. That was pretty good, I'll tell you for sure. Let's take a look at the markets if I can. Interesting day on the markets today because the Dow was up about, let's see, let me look at the numbers here. Boop. Up 25 points. The S&P down 27. So they are beginning 2024 down on the S&P. But where the real news today is the NASDAQ, which is down 245 points. That's about 1.63%. That's the worst day on the NASDAQ since last October. And apparently it has something to do with Apple stock because Barclays has downgraded the stock, and Apple shares slipped some 4% on Tuesday. Let's see, Barclays analyst Tim Rong wrote in a note to clients that the iPhone 15's current lackluster sales, specifically in China, presage similarly weak iPhone 16 sales, weaknesses that Long expects will hold true for Apple's hardware sales broadly. We are still picking up weakness on iPhone volumes and mix, as well as a lack of bounce back in Macs, iPads, and wearables. And I'll tell you why I think that is. I've long been into the iPhone world. I know Chris is he uses that other phone, which what's it called? I forget.
The better phone.
But I will tell you that I used to upgrade my phone every year because there would be some feature that I thought, well, that's worth it for me, because really when you have no idea. Most of my research is done on the phone throughout the day. I mean, if I have a few minutes, I've got my head in the phone, looking at what's going on in the world around me, so that I can be ready to. You don't just walk into here and do a show.
Huh.
You have to. Yeah, I know. Sometimes it seems like that, but you don't. And so but my iPhone 14 is still perfectly fine. So
yeah, they've almost kind of seems like hit the pinnacle.
Yeah.
You can't make it too much better. It's already great.
It's pretty good. What they've got out there is pretty good, and people feel I don't really feel the need right now to go and get a new one. So I think that's probably right. Tesla, by the way, has delivered in 2023 1.8 million vehicles, including that ugly truck. It's now 58 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair after a few days off. Glad to be back here. We're rested and ready. Tan rested and ready. Well, I don't know.
Tan?
No, I'm sort of looking a little pale, actually, but I need some sun. No, you're feeling good. Ready to take on the new year. It's going to be a hell of a new year. I mean, we are looking at, I think, one of the most fascinating political seasons that we have ever known in this country. It's going to be rock and roll. I don't think it's going to go quietly. I think it's going to be a struggle. I think every day there's going to be big news. And if you care deeply about this is the place you need to come, because we're going to be all over it. Iowa caucus is only 13 days away. And then, boy, right after that is New Hampshire. And, I would say by March, we may know for sure who the nominees are going to be. Now, on the Republican side of the equation, it seems pretty clear it's going to be Trump. But I'm not exactly clear, and neither, by the way, is Trump, on who the Democrat nominee is going to be. We'll see how that all unfolds and what the plan is. But, we got court cases. We got Supreme Court investigating, certain aspects of this campaign. And there are all kinds of things going on that just could be a very interesting season. And so buckle up, as we say here on The Drive. It's going to be interesting. I want to start this hour, though, with a discussion of what's happening down on our southern border, because the numbers are unbelievable. Just in the month of December, we've just gotten the numbers for the month of December, and it looks like it shatters all records of what has happened before. In 1 month, 302,000 migrant encounters. 302,000. That is way beyond anything that we have seen in recent. And I think it's going to get worse, because I think that people, down there south of the border want to come to America, kind of figure that, well, you know what? We're in an election season. We don't know who's going to be the president, but if it's Trump, this is all going to be shut down in record time, and we'll not be allowed into the country. So if people are deciding, well, if we're going to go now. I mean, December is supposed to be the slowest month of the year normally on the border. It's cold. People don't like to travel during the holidays, etc. They want to do it before. They want to do it after, but they don't generally travel in the month of December when they're trying to come across the border. But that doesn't matter. They're coming across in record numbers, not just from Mexico, not from Central America, not from South America, but from all over the world. It seems that our laws with regard to immigration are just widely being ignored. I mean, why go through all the hassle of actually doing it the way you're supposed to do it? And to apply for citizenship, to go through, maybe it's a little bit, too drawn out. Maybe it's a little too long. Maybe we need to do some things to sort of streamline that process to do it legally. But one way or the other, you don't have to worry about that at all now. You just go to Eagle Pass, Texas, and cross over across the river there, and they'll hand you a piece of paper and say, "Welcome to America." This is shocking. The federal government goes, their fiscal year begins in October 1. So we just wrapped up the first quarter of the federal fiscal year. And in that time period, since October, November, December, in those 3 months, 785,000 illegal migrants entered this country. I mean, you say, well, how do you know they're illegal? Because they broke the law the moment they came across the river. They're here illegally, but they have a piece of paper, and they're going to be here until, I don't know, whenever their court case comes up in 2031, 2035, who knows? 785,000 people in 3 months. Well, let me just pull up my handy-dandy iPhone here and just do a little math here. 785,785 times 4. If that continues for 4 quarters, that's 3.14 million, and that will shatter all records. Who knows how it's going to end up, but I mean, it's not looking good so far. 785,000. Do you know how many people live in Davidson County? 700,000. This is about the same size of the city of Seattle, I'm told, is now have moved into this country. And many of them are, of course, settling in blue cities around the country, and the mayors of those cities are beyond angry. They blame people like Texas Governor, Greg Abbott for sending these migrants into it, but he's really responsible for about 10% of what is happening. I don't know why they seem reluctant to talk about Joe Biden. Why would they not want to talk about Joe Biden and his involvement and his policies that make this happen? But here's the mayors, Democrat mayors from around the country.
An international and federal crisis that local governments are being asked to subsidize, and this is unsustainable.
When you're talking about 10% of the budget to allocate for cities on this, that's unsustainable. When we have every single hotel room in the city full of migrants that have arrived, that's unsustainable.
The federal government said to New York City, we're not going to do our job, you do our job. You take care of 4,000 people a week, Eric.
4,000 people a week coming into New York City, and not all those are coming on buses or planes that have been chartered by the state of Texas. You understand that. In fact, where's the outrage over the planes that are being flown around the country by the Biden administration? We focus about planes, we focus about buses coming from Texas. Nobody's focusing on the buses and the planes that are flying around the country, depositing these migrants all over the country, and they're being chartered not by the governor of Texas, but by the Biden administration. Come to this country, we give you a piece of paper. Oh, you need some help getting somewhere? We'll take care of it. Don't worry. Places like Denver, blue cities, Chicago, sanctuary cities, New York, and others, L.A. And you know what? In New York City right now, the migrants are lining up to get signed up for free housing. I don't get any free housing. Chris, do you get any free housing? I don't.
No.
No. I have to pay for my housing. But they're coming to this country and they're given free housing in New York City. In California, a decision has been made to give all of the illegal migrants who land in California free medical care. Chris, I don't know. I seem to recall you and we have to pay for our medical insurance and our medical care. Right?
Last time I checked, yes, we do have to pay.
And believe me, I'm telling you, it's expensive. It's expensive stuff. But no, in California, it doesn't cost you a penny. Well, it costs you and me a penny. Because guess who's paying for it? You and I are. Taxpayers in California, taxpayers in New York are paying for it. All of these things that are happening in this country are happening, and they don't happen for free when we say they're getting free. Well, free for them, not for us. We're having to pay for it. It is outrageous. And here, I'll tell you what's really outrageous, is Karine Jean-Pierre trying to defend this. Oh, I'm getting so tired of the things that she says. It's the same message all the time.
It is shameful that a Republican governor, Governor Abbott in Texas, is using migrants as a political stunt. That's what he's been doing.
So you're referring to the busing of migrants to northern cities?
Absolutely. And the busing of migrants, the putting them on flights, it is shameful that is occurring.
Well, hold on a minute. Why is it shameful that's occurring? Didn't they say that they were sanctuary cities? What is the federal government done to help the state of Texas out with the burden that they're carrying? So many people don't get on planes, don't get on buses. They just want to get to Texas. And that means that the state of Texas has to, all these additional costs that they're experiencing. But it's shameful. What is it shameful when the Biden administration puts people on a plane? She doesn't seem to ever mention that. And by the way, Greg Abbott is making a point, and by the way, it's an effective point. It's gotten everybody's attention, hasn't it? And that's what he was trying to do. Just say, look, we're getting killed down here on the border, and the rest of the world needs to know about it. So it is a public relations stunt, if you want to, but one that has been very effective in helping people understand just how bad the problem is down on the border. Let's make sure that people in New York, people in Chicago, people in Denver, people in L.A., people in other major metropolitan areas, they get a taste of what we're going through down here in Texas. Nothing wrong with that, in my estimation. But it's only about 10% of the people who have landed in New York City were sent there by Governor Greg Abbott. Did you know that? Only 10%.
And instead of, if the governor really truly wants to deal with this issue, he should talk to the senators in his state and actually ask them to work with us. Look, what we're seeing right now is negotiations happening on the Senate side to talk about how do we come up with a bipartisan agreement to deal with border security. There's a reason why the president put that in his emergency ask, right, in the national security supplemental ask, because he thought it was incredibly important. In a couple of weeks, we're about to hit 3 years since the president put forward an immigration comprehensive legislation, put that forward to Congress. Nothing was done on it.
Well, you know why nothing was done on it? I have to stop. I mean, I can't let her get away with this one. Oh, well, on day one, we put forward a package to revamp all immigration. Well, you know what their idea was? Amnesty. That's all they wanted. They wanted open borders and amnesty. And that was a non-starter. You can't get that. You can throw anything you want out there and say, look, we did something on the first day and Congress won't go along. Well, Congress didn't go along because it was a horrible plan. You don't get to just say, well, we put something down on paper, therefore we're absolved. No, if you put together a horrible plan that is never going to find favor, you did it for political purposes. You did it to show, well, it's the mean old Republicans who don't want you to come to this country. That's what that's about. It's for political advantage. It was never a serious proposal because they knew it could never garner the votes. It wouldn't even garner a lot of Democrat votes, what they put forward in the first days of the Biden administration. So, I'm tired of that one. Oh, well, we tried to do something, but Congress won't act. Congress won't act because what you put forward was stupid.
The president put forward a comprehensive immigration plan because he believed that the system is broken, the immigration system is broken, and it's been broken for decades.
Well, it wasn't broken when Donald Trump was the president. I don't recall. Chris, do you recall when Donald Trump was president? Do you recall that we had this kind of problem on the border? I don't seem to recall that.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Now we are having, we believe, a very productive conversation in Congress with senators on how do we move forward in a bipartisan agreement to deal with the border security. That is important. Now, what we hope is that when Congress gets back, we'll be able to act and get these things moving forward so we can deal with this issue. Congress needs to act. The president took this very seriously on day one.
Well, let me just say this. I know that Chairman of the Homeland Security Committee on Capitol Hill, Mark Green, our congressman here from the 7th Congressional District, is going to be on the border tomorrow, touring Eagle Pass, Texas, and he's going to be with the Speaker of the House. You see, right now, Congress is in the middle of having these negotiations. The Speaker of the House has said, we're not going to give you any money for Israel. We're not going to give you any money for Ukraine until you straighten out this border thing. And so the Speaker of the House is going to be down there tomorrow, and Mark Green will join us in the 4 o'clock hour tomorrow to tell us what they've seen. I don't know. Maybe, if we're lucky, the Speaker will be there. He'll just hand the phone to the Speaker. We'll get a chance to talk to the Speaker as well. But you don't want to miss that in the 4 o'clock hour tomorrow. I think it's scheduled right now for 4:10. So we'll get a sense of what they're seeing down there. But I guarantee you, I admire the Speaker of the House for finally putting his foot down saying, nothing moves. Nothing is going to happen. We're not going to give you anything you want. We're going to be the party of no until you get this situation headed in a different direction, because right now it's absolutely disastrous. I love this. In New York City, to stop the buses coming in from Texas, they said, well, if anybody comes in here, and we're gonna penalize and sue the bus companies. Well, the bus company said, well, I'm sorry, Governor Abbott, we can't take people to New York City anymore because, we do that. We don't need the lawsuit. We don't need the legal problems. So we're not going to be able to do that for you anymore. Then the answer was, well, let's just fly them in. So, for example, they flew a plane into, I think it was Chicago O'Hare, because they're doing the same thing in Chicago, by the way. Here's the way they've worked around it. I love this. Illegal immigrants take trains into New York City. What they're doing is they're driving them to New Jersey and letting them off at the train station and say, you found your way through the Darien Pass. I think you can get on this train and make it your way into New York City. It only cost you a few dollars on the train to go in. And so they're landing in New Jersey. They're landing in New Jersey, or they're driving the buses in New Jersey. They're not going into New York State, and they're still able to find their way. All they got to do is go to Secaucus, get on a train, and less than a half hour, you're in Midtown Manhattan. That's the way that works. It is interesting to note that over at CNN, they have finally come to the conclusion that the busing policy of red state governors has worked politically. It is working. It absolutely is working. It is having the impact that is desired. So good on you, Greg Abbott and other Republican governors who are saying, you know what, this is not good, and you need to feel the pain that we're feeling. Share the pain. If you're going to be a sanctuary city, then be a sanctuary city and shut up. That's the way it needs to be handled. 22 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Yeah, you heard the headline there. Embattled Harvard President Claudine Gay is resigning today, effective today. She took office in July 1st, so it's about 6 months to the date that she became the president of Harvard, and it did not last long. It's the shortest tenure of any Harvard president on record, and the records go back a way. Just how do we get here? Okay, a nice sort of look back, the greatest hits of Claudine Gay from the New York Post.com. Harvard first faced calls to fire Gay after she stood by the more than 30 Harvard students that published a letter claiming they held Israel entirely responsible for the Hamas October 7th terrorist attack. She stood by them. She further got additional calls to step down after she testified in the House on anti-Semitism, in which she told the embattled president told Representative Elise Stefanik that calls for genocide against the Jews could only violate Harvard rules depending on their context. Then Harvard announced Gay would remain president despite the school losing a reported $1 billion in donations. Journalists Christopher Rufo and Chris Burnett revealed that the embattled president plagiarized sections of her doctoral thesis. Harvard had previously covered up its own probe and threatened the Post when it looked into plagiarism allegations against Gay. Professor Carol Swain, our friend, whose work Gay is accused of plagiarizing, said Harvard lacks the courage to fire its first black president, and she added that Gay is getting a free pass. The embattled president was hit with 6 more plagiarism allegations on Monday, January 1st. That was yesterday. And she, we now understand, will be stepping down today. The information confirming this comes from the Harvard Crimson, the school newspaper, and it is really something that has finally come to fruition. Man, I wonder why you waited so long. If any student had done the things that the college president was accused of doing, they would have been kicked out of college already. She lands with a nice job on the staff. She's a tenured professor, after all. Real quick, in other news regarding woke stuff, we are, in this country, being pushed more and more into solar and wind. That's the Green New Deal folks who are saying we need solar, we need wind energy, and that's the way to go. I don't think it is enough to meet the needs of the future. It's interesting to see what's happening on our rivals on the world stage. How are they looking at the need for more electricity in the future? They're building nuclear power plants, which is exactly what we ought to be doing. And by the way, something that the governor of the state of Tennessee is endorsing. He wants us to be the place for nuclear power. And I support him in that, 1,000%. But no, we're going to continue to go down a pathway that will not provide us the energy we need for the future. 30 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We talk about T. King Insurance in Brentwood. They've been around for some 25 years as an independent agency, and that is a good thing for you. Now, let me tell you, number one, why it is. First of all, you're going to get great customer service. They're not some big faceless corporation that sells insurance on the internet. No, this is an independent agency that takes care of its clients individually. They look at what you need. When you call this number, 615-329-8121, you're going to get an actual person who answers the phone. Try that at your big internet insurance company. See if that works for you. It doesn't. Trust me, it doesn't work. So, call this number. An actual person will answer the phone, take care of your needs. You'll never get a recording. You'll never get a phone tree. The other thing about it is they can look around. They don't have to take this one product and try to take this round peg and stick it into a square hole, or a square hole peg into a round hole, however you want to do it. It doesn't matter, because they're going to find something that really fits your individual need. They can reject those that don't fit and bring you a better selection so you can make a decision. You get more bang for the buck with your insurance. Multi-policy discounts can save big money, 20, 25, 30, 35%. They're the kings of that, and they can actually show you how to do all that. Get your royal review with King & Associates. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance & Associates. You'll get royal treatment and great rates. It's 37 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair. Chris Weber is here. Joan Jones handling the news duties today. Mac Morey has the day off. Time for our 2024 update, because we are just 13 days away from the Iowa caucuses. Wow. It's happening. It's getting closer and closer and closer. And the information that we have here now is that there's going to be another GOP debate, but really the only two people that are going to be on the stage, it's a CNN debate sponsored by the RNC, and it's going to be Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. That's the only two. Christie doesn't qualify. Ramaswamy doesn't qualify. They don't have enough support to make the debate stage this time around. So it's Haley, it's DeSantis, and Trump has been invited, but he said, nope, I'm not going to be there. Instead, he's going to do a town hall at exactly the same time that the Republican debate is underway on CNN. He's going to do a town hall on Fox. And Brett Baer and I think Martha McCallum are going to be the people who handle the moderation duties on that. So, I mean, honestly, if I were Trump, I would do exactly the same thing. There's no need for him to, I mean, look, he's so far ahead. I mean, I've got the numbers here. Nationally, of course, that's not how we do it, but I mean, they've taken the national numbers and averaged them out. Trump leads all other opponents on a national basis by about 49 points. I mean, that's insanely strong. And that's according to a new poll that just came out. It's a USA Today poll. If you take the Real Clear Politics average, they look at a bunch of different polls, average them together. Trump leads the other candidates by 51 points. So you're just not going to make up 51 points. There is one caveat I want to say to that, though, and that is Haley seems to be making some movement in New Hampshire. It is Trump 46.3, Haley 24.8. She's in second place. Third place, surprisingly, is Chris Christie. He comes in with about 10. Still, I mean, 20 plus points ahead of Haley, but nonetheless, it's closer than anybody else has come, and that's in New Hampshire. I just bring that to your attention for what. But here's the thing: let's say that Christie were to get out, he's got 10%. Ramaswamy, if he were to get out, that's 16. Well, then if that support largely went to Haley, well, then it would be a much tighter race. And who knows what might happen after the Iowa caucuses. I mean, Ramaswamy's not even going to make the debate stage, neither is Chris Christie. Can they effectively win this thing? No, they really can't. And so after Iowa, if they have a dismal showing there, maybe they will get out by the time New Hampshire rolls around. Then you'll have about 16 points that could go somewhere. And Haley is surging right now and spending a ton of money in New Hampshire. Will she catch Trump? Not likely, but watch this space. Something might happen in New Hampshire that would change the narrative. Now, look, I mean, in other states, Trump is really strong. Even if Haley were to somehow squeak out a win or have a very strong showing in New Hampshire, it doesn't look like she'll win in her home state of South Carolina. It doesn't look like she's going to win in Florida. I mean, not going to win in any of the big states. So it would seem that it just might push us down the path a little further before we know who the Republican nominee. But the Trump people say Trump could have it all wrapped up by March. And I think that's probably true. Let's see. By the way, nationwide, that same poll shows Trump up by 1 over Biden in a nationwide, the Real Clear Politics average nationwide. Trump leads Biden by 2.3. Some polls show it more. Some polls show it less. One poll I saw recently had it tied. But when you average them all out, Trump leads Biden. It's within the margin of error. So he's not running away with it right now in the race for Biden. But here's the other thing that's happening, and this is the real headline from the USA Today Suffolk poll. Black and Hispanic and young voters are abandoning Biden as the election year begins. Biden now claims the support of 63% of black voters. Okay, you may say, well, that sounds pretty good. In 2020, he had 87%. He's dropped from 87% of black voters to 63% of black voters. This comes from the Roper Center. He trails among Hispanic voters by 5 percentage points, 39 to 34. In 2020, he had swamped Trump in that demographic, 65 to 32. So Trump has more Hispanic support than does Biden by 5 points. But in 2020, it was the other way around. Among voters under the age of 35, a generation largely at odds with the GOP on issues such as abortion access, climate change, Trump now leads 37 to 33%. It was younger voters who overwhelmingly backed Biden in 2020. Now not so much. Trump has the lead on voters under the age of 35. What has happened here? Well, with black voters, it seems that they have decided that they will vote for a third-party candidate, a great number of them. So Trump has about 12% black support, which is exactly what he had in 2020, according to this poll. Although Trump hasn't grown support among black voters, he has closed the deficit because third-party voters come off of Biden's support among blacks. A young voter or a person of color voting third party is a vote away from President Biden, and a vote away from President Biden is a vote for Donald Trump, says David Paleogos, director of Suffolk's political research team. So black voters are going for third party. They can't vote for Biden. They just can't. And Hispanic voters, Trump leads by 5 points. And he leads with young voters under the age of 35. These are all very good metrics for Donald Trump. Really, really strong. As I mentioned, CNN announced its qualifiers for the January 10th Republican presidential primary debate in Iowa on January 10th, 5 days before the Iowa caucuses. And it apparently invited to the debate are Governor DeSantis, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, and President Donald Trump. DeSantis and Haley have accepted the invites. Trump will participate, as I said, in a Fox News town hall the very same night. Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie did not receive invitations. CNN says they did not meet the qualifications. To qualify for participation in the Iowa debate, candidates must receive at least 10% in 3 separate national and/or Iowa polls of Republican caucus goers or primary voters that meet CNN standards for reporting. 3 current candidates who have appeared on the stage in some previous debates, Ramaswamy, Christie, and Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, did not meet those qualification requirements. So there you go. They're not going to be on the stage, and they're not going to be the nominees. I mean, let's be honest with you. So the scenario that I would watch is after Iowa on January 15th, just a few days before the New Hampshire primary, do you have Ramaswamy and Chris Christie bowing out? Or maybe everybody but Nikki Haley, DeSantis, and Trump. And where will that support go? Will some of it go to DeSantis? Will some of it go to Nikki Haley? Can Nikki Haley get close in New Hampshire? Does that change the narration? Well, she got money because the Koch brothers are funding her campaign, and she's got money to spend, and she's not afraid to spend it if she feels like she can gain some momentum. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, it looks pretty hard to beat Trump, but I'm just saying that the New Hampshire thing is sort of interesting. Democrats are saying that they are very concerned now about how the primary might go in North Carolina. House Democrats fighting to flip control of the chamber next year will first have to overcome an unexpected bloodbath in North Carolina, where Republicans have secured a new map that all but guarantees a red wave in November. GOP lawmakers in the state legislature approved a redistricting plan in October that set the stage for Republicans to pick up at least 3 seats, maybe 4, and that would double the GOP's slender House majority on Capitol Hill. The new lines have squeezed out more Democrat voters into some blue districts while carving up others for the Democrat voters are vastly outnumbered, this according to thehill.com. There is an interesting story, and you can find the link to this on yourfarm.com. It's from the Wall Street Journal, where they go through key counties and key communities around the country that could likely decide the 2024 election. I mean, some places you know what it's going to be. It's going to be blue or it's going to be red. But they look at the key purple states that could really turn the election, the coming election, one way or the other. And they say that what they find is, and this is why I think it's interesting, is that voters don't really like what they are seeing from either candidate. So that means if there is a viable third-party candidacy, does that become something that changes the equation? I've been talking about this because you can't win without winning the middle. And if the middle has a place to go in these key places, then, does that change the equation? No Labels founder Joe Lieberman, former senator from Connecticut, is open to scrapping his bipartisan third-party presidential ticket if the nonprofit political group cannot nail down the right candidates within the next few months. No Labels has so far secured ballots access in 12 states for its potential unity ticket, which would feature a Democrat and a Republican to try and heal partisan fractures in Washington. We'll only do this if it's constructive and we can make a real difference in our government and our politics, he said on CNBC. And secondly, we need top-tier candidates. If not, the group would drop the effort. We're going to have to make tough judgments in a couple of months. No Labels is in the early stages of formalizing its candidate exploration committee, which will aim to nominate names in March or April if they decide to go forward with the unity ticket. Names like Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, who was a Republican in name only in the state of Maryland. I say that because, Maryland, to be a Republican in Maryland, you have to be halfway to a Democrat because Democrats outnumber Republicans 3-1. He was a very moderate Republican governor in the state of Maryland, and a guy I've interviewed many times. I like him, but he's not what you would call a true conservative. No Labels has yet to officially nominate candidates. There's been some talk about other candidates perhaps being considered, but they haven't nailed it down yet, and it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Thing to watch is New Hampshire. Iowa, it looks like Trump will win that handily, but New Hampshire is becoming, slightly more interesting. Let's just say that. 50 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. How are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to help you figure out where you are and then help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide that reassurance, and it starts with a simple phone call to this number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. You have nothing to lose except for all the worry. So get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, that number is 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Thank you, Joan. Joan Jones filling in today for Mac Maury. And we have Chris Weber pushing all the blinky buttons. I'm coming to you from Studio A here in bucolic Watertown.
Studio A.
Yeah, I now have 2 studios.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Studio A is where I do my radio show, and directly adjacent to it is Studio B, where I try to do music. And I say try because, some people have heard it and they're not so sure, it qualifies. But no, it's I've always had a sort of if you know the how the technology works, called a Pro Tools rig.
Yeah.
Pro Tools is what, you use to record music.
How did you get your hands on Pro Tools?
I don't know. They don't have an amateur tools, so that's the main reason, I think. But so I've always wanted to have that. But since I moved in, for various reasons, some of them, like last year was not a great year to get a lot of things accomplished because I really struggled through a good portion of the year with some health issues. But feeling really, really strong now. You wouldn't believe how much better I feel than I did last year at times. But I just didn't have time to do it. And so I finally, during this week when I was off, that was my staycation project.
Nice.
Yeah.
Looks good, by the way.
Well, thank you. The other room is a storage room, really. And it's not particularly a pretty room. It's just plywood on the walls.
Yeah.
But there's something about that room that's just really great. It's very dead. There's nothing, very quiet, no reflections off the walls. And acoustically, it's really good for recording. So I'm not going to do too much to it. It's ugly, but it suits the need.
Yeah. Well, that's what's important is what it sounds like.
So now I have, this is Studio A. And so I'll be coming to you from Studio A. If you hear me say Studio B, then get ready because I'm going to play some music for you. That will not happen. No, that's not ready.
Oh.
By the way, speaking of music in Nashville, the Wild Horse Saloon on 2nd Avenue has closed its doors after nearly 30 years. They opened in 1994. And it's apparently where they're going to be transformed into Luke Holmes Honky Tonk. And so that's going to happen. They announced it on their Facebook page and sent a little note saying, let's raise a glass to the past and toast to the brilliant future ahead. So bye-bye, Wild Horse Saloon. Welcome, Luke Combs-inspired honky tonk. It is 59 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of the cold weather already. And if you wake up and it's cold in your house, so that's not a good thing. You should call the people I would call. Call the people at Busy Bee HVAC and Plumbing. They will buzz right over to your home and get you back up and running. These systems are not meant to last forever. They have about a 20-year lifespan. So if you're getting to the end of the life of your plumbing system or your HVAC system and you need to upgrade something or replace it, you're not going to find a better value. And maybe this is the year to do it right now. You want to become a member of the Beehive Club, that's preventative maintenance, and maybe it will cause your system to last a bit longer. Starts at $99. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your system, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing, no overtime charges 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is 6 minutes past the hour, 5 o'clock, hour number 3 of The Drive, my first show of 2024. I don't know. I'm going to make sure I don't write 2023 on the checks anymore.
I was still writing 2022.
Were you?
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's hard because I don't write that many checks.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I spend a lot of money, but I don't write many checks. I'll tell you that for sure. It is 2024, and this is the first show, and glad to be back after having a week off. My thanks to Matt Murphy for filling in my absence. I wanted to take a few days between Christmas and New Year's to sort of, get some things caught up around the house, but also to sort of, get myself rested and ready for what I think is going to be a long stretch. Where we're going to be talking a lot about politics. And as I mentioned, it's 8 business days till the Iowa caucus, 13 days on the calendar. And then it begins in earnest. And I just think this is going to be a fascinating political season. It's going to be unpredictable on every turn, and nothing is going to go the way you think it's going to go. I mean, the way it looks right now, it would be Biden versus Trump for a rematch. And the numbers are looking, increasingly better for Trump than for Biden, as we explored in the last hour. But I just think that, there's so many other possibilities out there, scenarios that we can't really quite, know how they're going to play out. Will there be a third party? Will there actually be Joe Biden as the nominee? And then if not him, who? And all of that, I think, is still to be played out. And so I wanted to be rested and ready for all of that, and I really appreciate Matt Murphy stepping up to the plate and handling all that, because this is what I do. And if you care about this coming election, I promise you that on this show, each and every day, we're going to give you the very latest and the nuances of what's going on behind the scenes. There are just so many different things to keep an eye on, a lot of balls up in the air. So we're going to be watching them all, including, the Supreme Court decisions about certain things that might have an impact on the outcome of this election. So we'll be watching it, and we hope that you'll just settle in with us as we head toward election. I think we might have the nominees by March, but maybe not until after the conventions. Maybe the conventions are where we know who the real nominees are. So a lot to keep eyes on, and we'll be on it. I'm thinking about going to Iowa.
Really?
I think I might like to go to Iowa. We'll see. The one thing that I know is that the government is bloated and it costs you a lot of money. And anytime you have government, I always like that idea that the government which governs best is that which governs least. But yeah, these Democrats, they love their regulations. They love to do things that, with the legislation that's out there, try to twist it and turn it and interpret it their way, and then add a bunch of regulations when they feel like the law is not clear on how something should be interpreted. Listen to this. The Biden administration has added $745 billion worth of regulation in 2023. In other words, when they add regulations to businesses, and corporations, regulations on car makers, manufacturers, whatever it is, and they say you have to now adhere to this regulation, that generally ends up costing the companies money. And then what happens when they put in a bunch of research and development, and they have to adhere to certain regulations. They have to jump through hoops that otherwise they wouldn't have to jump through. They have to go through all these legal processes, drags out the process in most of the cases, because regulations are something that slow down a process, not speed it up in most cases. So what happens? Well, that ends up costing you and me more money. The goods and the services that we purchase cost more, because the companies are now having to face all of this regulatory burden. From the Daily Caller, the Biden administration promulgated over $745 billion worth of regulations in 2023. They used rulemaking procedures and agencies to enact several left-wing policy initiatives, such as stringent emission standards to encourage the adoption of electric vehicles that nobody wants, student loan forgiveness plans, which the Supreme Court struck down. The administration greatly exceeded both the Trump and Obama administrations in terms of regulations it issued, adding to the 743 rules since 2021, according to a government watchdog known as AAF. Since January 1, the federal government has published $745.2 billion in total net cost, and it will cost companies 251.3 million hours of net annual paperwork burdens. That's right. To fill out all the paperwork, it comes to 251.3 million hours. Divide that up among your company, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The administration has published 743 rules at face value costs of $447 billion, and add another 277 million hours to actually process the additional paperwork that is required by the new regulations. The cost and work burden stand markedly in contrast to the Trump administration, which published 847 rules at a face value of just $25 billion and a paperwork burden of $65 million. Is way more than the Obama administration did as well. They continue to pile regulations on Main Street America. If we want small businesses to thrive, we need less, not more, wasteful regulations, wrote the Republican-controlled House of Representatives Committee on Small Business. That's right. So it costs you a lot more money every time the government does this. And sometimes they write these regulations around the rules. In other words, a law is passed and is handed to the administration to interpret, and they come up with the rules and the regulations that surround the law that give us a guideline for how those rules, those laws are going to be administered. So this is why this is important. From the Epoch Times, U.S. Supreme Court could dismantle the federal government's power in 2024. Multiple cases on the docket could permanently change the federal administrative state. Oh, please, I hope this happens. With the Supreme Court slated to return to session on January 8th, the second part of the High Court's term could hand down rulings that either curb or expand the federal government's power, sometimes known as the administrative state. Let me give you some of these cases. The SEC versus Jarkessi. Hedge fund manager George Jarkessi was penalized by the SEC for violating security fraud laws, which he appealed. The U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals sided with him, arguing that a ruling that the SEC violated the Constitution's Seventh Amendment, which provides the right to have a jury trial. It also found that Congress engaged in overreaching by delegating its own power when allowing an agency, in this case the SEC, to hold administrative proceedings rather than file a lawsuit in civil court against Mr. Jarkessi. The Supreme Court arguments in the case were heard on November 29th, so we may not be long before seeing the results of this one. According to court reporters, the arguments focused on whether the Constitution's Seventh Amendment bars the Federal Securities Agency from issuing penalties with internal proceedings without giving the defendant the ability to have a trial by jury. And listen to this. This is the important part. During the hearing, Chief Justice John Roberts suggested that federal agencies have obtained more power over the public in recent years. Should that be a concern for us or a consideration? He asked the Department of Justice attorneys representing the SEC in the case. Justice Brett Kavanaugh suggested to the DOJ lawyer that the Jarkessi case would impact other federal agencies. I don't want you to think it's just the SEC and it can just go to court. The Federal Trade Commission and others, I'm aware, he said. EPA, agriculture, I mean, it's really all over the federal government's what he's saying. So what they're saying is that this SEC ruling could have wider implications for other agencies in the way they conduct their affairs. There's another one called CFPB versus Community Financial Services of America. I won't weed too deeply in the weeds on this one, but I will say this. If this one were to go, it could change a lot of things because they believe in this petition to the Supreme Court, the CFPB said the Fifth Circuit relied on unprecedented and erroneous understandings of the appropriation clause. Republicans have long opposed the creation of this organization. The Supreme Court in 2020 ruled in another case that the protection Congress originally afforded the CFPB director should only be fired for cause was unconstitutional. There's another case, Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo, and it is about the Chevron doctrine, which has long been criticized by conservatives who called it unconstitutional. The Chevron versus Natural Resources Defense Council case in 1984 considered a key facet of administrative law and requires courts to defer the federal agency's reasonable interpretations of statutes that are left unclear. In other words, if an agency gets a law from Congress, signed into law by a president, and they feel that the statutes are unclear about how they should be implemented, it's up to the agency to decide. That's called the Chevron doctrine, and Republicans hate that. And this could really, really trim back the federal government's ability to interpret the laws as they see fit. You see, that's the problem. Every administration comes in and starts to interpret the laws differently. So there's no stability to the situation. And Democrat administrations, by and large, the agencies will use things like the Chevron doctrine to legislate without legislation. You got what I'm saying? Other news from the swamp. The House GOP majority has officially been whittled down to only 3 seats. We have only a 3-seat majority because Kevin McCarthy has departed. The House is down to 433 members in total. One House is supposed to have 435. We got 433. Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy joins, The House Republican majority is officially whittled down to 3 as the chamber updated its numbers after former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy quit. This from Fox News. The House gathered in a pro forma session on Tuesday, officially updating the number of seats held by members of Congress. McCarthy's resignation was effective December 31st, but this was the first time the gavel had come down in the House since the former Speaker's resignation went into effect, so it was accepted. House Republicans now hold 220 seats. The House Democrats currently control 213. 2 vacancies, McCarthy's resignation and the removal of disgraced former New York GOP Representative George Santos, have House Republicans walking a political tightrope under the new leadership of Mike Johnson. With only a 3-seat majority, Johnson can only have 3 defectors, and otherwise, if the Democrats vote en bloc, if they vote all unified, as they often do, then Johnson can only lose 3 Republicans or the Democrats win. That means that a lot of things if you got 3 people on the Republican side of the equation who object to some law, you can't bring it forward. You need a more healthy majority than that, and it doesn't look like. And by the way, there are some other things pending out there where that could even be narrowed even more. So Republicans you talk about a razor-thin majority. There's supposed to be 435 members of Congress, and right now there's, 400 and, where did I say? 433, so they're down 2. And that means that you can only lose 3 votes as Republicans or the Democrats win. Wow. It's tight and difficult to be the speaker in that environment because you've got to keep every single Republican happy. And as you know, that's a hard thing to do. We've seen in recent months how difficult that then is. That's why McCarthy's no longer speaker. He couldn't keep everybody happy. So that's going to be one to watch in the days ahead. By the way, as I mentioned, the Speaker of the House and Congressman Mark Green are going to be on the border tomorrow with about 60 members of Congress going down to Eagle Pass. We'll be talking to Mark Green tomorrow in the 4 o'clock hour to talk about what they have seen. And, who knows? Maybe if the speaker's sitting there, he'll just hand the phone to him. We might be able to talk to the speaker as well. So we'll see how that goes. But join us tomorrow at 4:10 for Congressman Mark Green as he tours the southern border with the Speaker of the House and about 58, 59 other members of Congress. 21 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. King Associated Insurance is in Brentwood. They've been an independent agency for over 25 years. They're a small agency, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing because they can take care of you and your many needs. And I think about it, if you do business with one of those big internet companies that sell you insurance, you're not going to get custom service. You're not going to get anybody who cares about you. You're simply going to, if you call, you'll get a phone recording that says, please stand by. Your call is important to you, and you may be on that line for hours. But if you call this number, 615-329-8121, that's the number to King Associates Insurance in Brentwood. There'll be an actual human being who answers the phone, and they will take care of you, get you to the right person to take care of whatever it is you need. The other thing about an independent agency, they're not relegated to selling just one product. They can sell a number of different products. They can shop around, find you the best deal, get you the most bang for your buck, and customize a policy that really meets your needs. You're not going to get that from the big internet insurance companies. Multi-policy discounts, they know that game very well. Huge savings are possible, 20, 25, 30, 35%. So get your royal review today with King & Associates Insurance. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. That's King Insurance & Associates, royal treatment and great rates. I want to let you know that we will not be having the Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports because Mac Maury's not here today. So it's hard to have the Mac Maury Wide World of Sports without Mac Maury.
Yeah, that's a good point. It would just be nothing.
And we have so much to catch up on.
Yeah, a lot of sports.
We got bowl games. We got NFL things going on. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll catch up with him. I guess he'll be back tomorrow.
Hopefully, yeah.
I hope so. Top Hamas leader. I'm going to talk about the situation in the Mideast in absence of Mac Maury. It's not the same, really, honestly. But I'd have to fill the time. But there is a lot of stuff. You people say, the Mideast, I don't know. Does that really impact my life? It does. And I'm going to show you how. Stick with me. Stick with me on this, all right? Top Hamas leader is killed in a suspected Israeli strike in Beirut. That's right, in Hamas leader in Beirut. This guy is Salah al-Arori. He was the founder of the Hamas military wing and one of its top political leaders. So it seems to me that, now Israel is looking beyond what's happening in Gaza and going after some of the key leaders of Hamas, wherever they might be, and some of them are in Beirut. The U.S. Navy helo, now this thing is widened out into other areas. The whole region is on tenterhooks right now. U.S. Navy helo crews killed Houthi rebels and destroyed a couple of their assault boats in the process. 10 Houthi fighters are dead after attempted attacks on U.S. Navy forces. It was never going to work out well for them. You come up in a little speedboat on a full-fledged, U.S. Navy ship, bristling with all kinds of weaponry, and it's not going to go well. The Houthis embarking from Yemen were attempting to seize the MV Maersk, which was a container ship with small boats. The U.S. Navy destroyer USS Gravely and USS aircraft carrier Dwight D. Eisenhower responded to a distress call, stepped in, took care of the matter in short order. And so now, by the way, Maersk has said, we're not going to bring any more ships through there. That's how it starts to impact you. That's number one. Because when the ships aren't flowing, when there isn't free trade, the cost of goods and services that were on, there are billions and billions of dollars on one of those ships. Now, now they're not going to have to take a longer trip around. They have to go all the way around Africa. It adds like 3 weeks to the trip. Things that you could get in a much quicker time if they didn't have to do that. It won't be possible. Now there's an Iranian warship that is entering the Red Sea. And we're looking at that going, okay, that'll be interesting. Oil prices volatile on Tuesday, according to CNBC, after Iran dispatched a warship to the Red Sea as the situation remains tense in the critical waterway for global shipments that has seen vessels attacked by Yemen's Houthi rebels, which are supported by Iran. West Texas Intermediate fuel went up, dropped 95 cents. The Brent contract lost 71 cents, so they're going to be wildly variable. It had jumped 2% higher in earlier trading. The market is basically saying we'll wait and see until something happens, but the idea that an Iranian warship is going to be out there commingling with U.S. Navy ships is going to be a tense situation and bears some watching, as we say. Here's that other story. Maersk has halted Red Sea shipping until further notice after the Houthi militant attacks. I mean, the Navy, U.S. Navy took care of it, but, I mean, Maersk doesn't want to lose ships and doesn't want to lose cargo, and they have an obligation to deliver the stuff safely, and they don't want to put their crews at risk and their boats at risk, their ships at risk. So they are deciding not to have any shipments into the Red Sea until further notice. Meanwhile, the Navy's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, which had been deployed to the Middle East to try to keep those outside of Gaza from entering the fray against Israel, is now returning to the United States. The Eisenhower will be the lone U.S. aircraft carrier in the region, and they're in a different part of the region than was the Ford, but the Ford is going back home. 30 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I want to talk to you about gold, which has been used as money for forever, millennia. It's a tried and true store of value and consistent across generations. Some have observed that generational wealth has three components: land, art, and precious metals. Land and art can be hard to evaluate, but precious metals like gold, platinum, and silver are practical solutions that you and I, something that's tangible. You can hold it in your hand. You can feel it. It's gold. It's silver. It's platinum. Inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money, and gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. Do you have gold that was given to you and you are not sure what it might be worth, or you're just curious about precious metals and want to learn more? Well, you can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. They are always available to discuss your options, educate you on the precious metals market. You should do what I did and go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin, and learn more about all the things they can do for you, and set up your one-on-one appointment by going to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. "38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. The first Brian Wilson show of the new year. Welcome to the drive for 2024. We are buckled up and ready for an exciting, election season. Very, very excited. After having some rest, I'm ready to dig in, and we'll bring you all that and, of course, all the other news of the day. We always do. Right now, many of you within the sound of my voice are driving home. You've been at work and you're driving home, moving about the area in your vehicles. You may not know this, but I'm going to share some information about a new Tennessee law. In fact, there's a whole bunch of new Tennessee laws that go into effect, that went into effect yesterday. And this is the first chance I've had to tell you about it. But if you're driving right now, one thing I would tell you is do not pick up your phone Whatever you do, do not look at your phone. Don't even think about looking at your phone. Leave it over there wherever it is. You know, if it's in your back pocket, in your purse, if it's sitting on the seat next to you, if it's sitting there in your console, don't look at it. Don't touch it. Don't pick it up. You ready? There was a new bill passed by the state legislature that is going into effect now. And if they catch you looking at your cell phone, the penalties are much harsher, and you could even lose your license. You ready? It's called the Eddie Conrad Act, named after Wilson County business owner Eddie Conrad, killed in July of 2020. Conrad's vehicle was hit from behind by a distracted driver on the Sparta Pike, pushing his vehicle into oncoming traffic. He died after being removed from life support system at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Now, under the new law, drivers under the age of 18 will receive 7 points added to their driving record if on their second or subsequent violation of using a wireless telecommunications device while driving. I mean, it's even worse. If it happens within a short period of time, you could have your license suspended for 6 months. You tell a teenager who has their driver's license that if you're caught looking at your phone, you could have your license suspended for 6 months. And I guarantee you that gets that teenager's attention. You know why? Because teenagers love having their cars, man. I mean, you know, when I was a teenager and I got my first car, I felt like, man, the whole world is opened up to me now. The whole world is my oyster. And I'm free to go and do as I please. Well, not exactly, but I mean, more than I was before. You know, it's an act of, it's something that freedom when you're a teenager. I'm free. I have my own car keys. I got my own car. But if you get caught looking at your phone, you are increasing the likelihood that you could have your license suspended for 6 months. By the way, if you get even one ticket, there's a pretty good chance your insurance rates are going to go sky high. Young people, within the sound of my voice, you don't want that. Trust me, you don't want it. And you know, if you get to be too much of a liability because you've got so many points stacked up on your license, you will not be able to get insurance, and you can't drive without insurance. Let's see. I got another story on it here from WKRN. Under Tennessee law, a teenage driver caught not paying attention to the road more than once will receive 7 points on their driving record, enough to potentially have their license suspended for 6 to 12 months. The legislation raising the penalties from $50 fine was named after Eddie Conrad. It's hard to police when it's only a $50 citation. There's something that has to be worthwhile to make the police department so they can pursue it. And so that's what they are doing. By the way, it's not just kids, teenagers. It also has a component for adults as well, and you could lose your driver's license. I think it has to be three citations in a row. But if you get, I mean, they will come after you as well. I got to find it here. Yeah, here it is. Adult drivers can have their license revoked if they're caught driving distracted 3 or more times in 1 year. So there you go. 3 times, 3 strikes, and you're out. And I'm telling you, you do not want to have to go through that trouble. So I mean, well, honestly, let's just really get down to what it means. Don't look at your phone. Hook up your phone to a Bluetooth so you can play your music or take your phone calls without having to pick up your phone through the system in your car. And if you don't do that, then get a Bluetooth device for your ear and do it that way. But I'm telling you, this law is one that I think the law enforcement has wanted for some time now. We have a lot of people who get injured and get hurt because they're driving distracted. How many times have you been driving down the road and you see somebody sort of weaving all over the road and you say, is that person drunk? You know, and then, you know, when you finally get a point, you see what's really going on. You notice they're messing with their phone. They got it down in their lap. So, you know, they don't think you know, but they're looking at their phone and not looking at the road. And the next thing you know, they're going to be in an accident. Insurance companies want this law. Police want this law. And by the way, it's one of those laws where really, honestly, if what you're looking at on your phone is that dadgum important, you need to think about whether it's worth your life or the life of somebody else. Honestly, there's just no excuse for it. So don't look at your phone. Don't pick it up. Don't answer a call and put it to your ear. Just don't. I've gotten to the point now where I just pull over. If I need to make a phone call, and I think that's good advice, pull into a parking lot somewhere, pull off to the side of the road, do whatever you have to do. If you need to program your phone or your GPS or whatever, pull over. Do it that way. And thank goodness, with most new cars, it's easy to do that without ever taking your eyes off the road, because you can just ask it to do it. Like, I can ask my take me to this place, take me to that place, and it will do it.
That's whenever we were buying my son his car, his first car, I was adamant about putting an updated head unit in that he could plug his phone up to, that would, where he could have his music controls and navigation on the screen, like a new car would have.
Right.
Because I did not want him to be fooling with his phone while he was driving.
That's right. I mean, especially when you're an inexperienced driver.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's much worse. So I like this law. I mean, I'm not generally, I don't like the heavy regulation burden of the state, but this is something that it's just good common sense. Sort of like, putting on your seatbelt. Sort of like, I know some people will, I'll get hate for this. Some people, think it's wrong of the state to tell you to put on your helmet if you're on a motorcycle. But I mean, honestly, it's a good idea. Put on your helmet when you get on your bike. It's just a good idea. You can make your decision on your own. I mean, you're a big person, but I mean, I'm telling you, they're not wrong when they say it's a good idea. It is a good idea. Protect your head. So anyway, I think this is a good law. There's some other things that are out there. One of this is sort of nice. There's a new law that will provide funding. Yes, it's called the James Dustin Samples Act. It will provide funding for firefighters. It will create a grant program to cover costs to an employer providing workman's comp for firefighters to take time off and seek the help that they may need. Honestly, I don't know if that same thing exists for police officers, but it should. Firefighters, and Lord knows, as a reporter who covered a lot of fires over the years, sometimes you see things that you just can't unsee. It can really impact you, especially if you're covering a fire, you're out to put out a fire, and young children are injured. It's gut-wrenching. And as a reporter who's seen some of that, you can never unsee it. Well, what happens is a lot of these firefighters, and like a lot of first responders, they get PTSD, which impacts, your family life. It impacts you, and you need help. You need to get help, and you need to take the time to get the help. So this creates a grant program to cover costs to an employer for firefighters to take time off and get the help that they may need. According to Dustin Samples' wife, I guess it was, yes, she says that it's going to save careers, going to save marriages, families, and relationships. Because PTSD doesn't really affect just the first responder. It affects the family, the whole department, and the whole community in turn. So there you go. Other laws are in effect, but those are the ones I think that are probably the most important. A reminder, just don't pick up your phone, okay? Don't do it. Speaking of the state legislature, they will begin their new session soon, and the lieutenant governor will not be there at the start. Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally of Oak Ridge will miss the opening weeks plural, of the upcoming legislative session as he recovers from ankle surgery. Here's what he said. I'm pleased to report I've completed a second successful ankle surgery. As a result, I'll be absent for the first few weeks of the legislative session. On the orders of my doctor, I'll be finishing up my recovery and my physical therapy at my home in Oak Ridge. While I will not be physically present, I will be monitoring proceedings remotely and will be in daily, if not hourly, contact with Senate leadership and staff. I look forward to returning to work in person as soon as I am able, but no real indication of when that will be. According to a statement from McNally's office, Speaker pro tempore Farrell Hale will serve as deputy speakers. Don White, Shane Reeves, and John Stevens will preside over floor sessions in his absence. So there you go on that. It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably, menu-style transparent pricing, so you know how much it will cost before the care is delivered. Smart Care plans start at just $69 a month, and for that you get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the entire family, even newborns, they can offer family plans as well. Now, you marry that with that high-deductible insurance plan you have, and it could save you and your family a lot of money. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. And listen, Grace Point Healthcare is on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
I hope it's not that cool bird cam thing, because I got one of those for Christmas. I'm very excited. Should I check if I got any birds yet? I see. The thing is, it's a little bird house with a camera in it, and you fill it up with bird seed, and then you go around and when a bird lands there to eat the seed, it takes a picture. And let's see. I've been trying to figure it. Nope. No birds have visited my birdhouse yet.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure once spring rolls around, it'll be a lot more busy, I would think.
I've always thought that, and I thought, well, you know what they say, though, is that you should feed the birds in the winter because they have a harder time finding food in the winter.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm excited. Let's see if my bird cam.
Yeah.
It's my favorite Christmas gift this year.
That is a really cool one. I've seen those advertised before. It'll take them a while to figure out that it's there, I guess.
Well,
right?
they won't take. I'm trying to. What I'm wondering is who finds it first, the birds or the squirrels?
Well, probably the squirrels.
Yeah, the squirrels.
And then they'll tell the birds that it's there.
And they watch each other. The birds and the squirrels.
Oh yeah.
And Chris Hand believes the birds aren't real anyway. Have you heard that thing?
Thinks they're like
there
drones.
are people who think that birds aren't real. I don't understand it, quite frankly, but apparently there's a group of people in America who have doubts that birds really exist. I don't know. I believe
Does that
in birds.
count chickens and turkeys, or is it just the other kind of birds?
I don't know. It's a weird thing. How could you not look around and see that birds exist? They exist.
Well, they're there. They're just
none of them. Maybe they
animals.
don't exist because they haven't showed up at my bird cam yet. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you. Soon as I get a bird, man, I tell you, I can't wait to put it on the internet. This is my first bird.
Does it identify? Are there smarts involved in the software? Does it say what kind of bird it is? I wonder.
I don't know, but apparently on this app you can consult other experts, and they can tell you. I mean, they have all kinds of pictures. I mean, you can actually tap into other people's on the app, other people's bird cams, and see what they're seeing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can tap in, and you have to give it permission to do that. I wouldn't want people looking at my bird cam.
Somebody might be thinking of other ideas of
that's
other
right.
kind of birds.
That's right.
To be viewing.
Yeah,
might not want to do that.
If you do that, you'll get a bird from me. That's for sure. I'm going to get in trouble for that. You know what? The big New Year's bash downtown, New Year's Eve, where everybody goes downtown and has a big celebration, and they got concerts and everything. 215,000 people were downtown.
Wow.
That's the biggest crowd ever. It gets bigger every year. I'm sure they were there to hear Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell spin a few records on the old DJ machine. Something like that. I know I probably would have fought the crowd of 215,000 people just to see that.
We saw that, a little bit of it on the news the other night, and my brother was in town. I said, that's Nashville's mayor. He said, that guy? That's the mayor? And I said, yep.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll hold my tongue for now. 59 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. The news is next. Right after this, big news from DT McCall's. We still have a few days left in hunting season, so if you're thinking about getting that gun safe, it's still time to do it. And if you don't know, gun safes are sales tax free. Sales tax free. Hunting season, so be sure you keep your gun safe when you're not in the tree stand with a gun safe from DT McCall. Also keep your trees safe as well. DT McCall's is the largest Liberty Safe dealer in Tennessee. Why? It has to do with free delivery and setup. Some charge $500 for delivery and setup of the big models, $300 for the small models. And at DT McCall & Sons, they deliver every safe every time, free, no setup charges either. Security is so important these days. And here's something to think about. These gun safes can be used to secure other valuables you have, whether it's valuables, cash, jewelry, important documents, wills, deeds, car titles, whatever you need to keep safe from theft or fire, you can do that with a gun safe. So now save some big bucks on your gun safe when you shop at your local DT McCall's. Just go to dtmccalls.com for locations and information. 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock, the fourth and final hour of the first show of January 2nd, 2024, first show of this year. Because I've been gone. Well, I didn't work yesterday. It was a holiday. So this is my first day back after a week off. Thanks to Matt Murphy for helping me out on that. And the first show of the year, and it's going to be a heck of a year. And I'm so glad. I am rested and ready for whatever this year brings. And I think it's going to be a roller coaster. I really do. I am actually very, very happy to put 2023 to bed. How many have you heard? Everybody I know says that.
Yeah, it wasn't a particularly great year for anybody, I don't think.
No, it certainly wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I am glad to be starting off. I've made no secret of the fact that I went through some health issues last year while I was, still working. And the shingles thing, boy, I'm telling you, I don't recommend that to anybody. That's no big deal. I lost 60 pounds on the shingles diet, but it's a hell of a way to lose 60 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't recommend that. And then had a couple of little, flippity floppity things going on with my heart, which we got straightened out. And now I feel rested. I feel ready. I feel sharp. I feel like I'm ready to tackle whatever, might come our way. And I think it's going to be a really, really interesting year, an election year, and so many other things going on. Buckle up, as we say here on the drive, because it's gonna be worth listening to this program every day going forward until we decide who our next president's going to be. And then there's just other stuff going on in the world that needs to be watched, so we'll be on it. Want to talk about the border situation again. And you say, well, we talk about that a lot. Well, yeah, that's true. But listen to this. New numbers that Fox News has obtained from their sources say that in the month of December alone, there were 302,000 encounters with illegal migrants. 302,000 people came across the border. Now, if you were to maintain that, I think it's going to stay high all the way through this year. And the main reason I think it's going to be that way is because I believe that people in South America or people who want to take advantage of the laxness that we have at the border, unless something changes, they're going to keep coming because they realize, well, you know what? Well, they pay attention to what's happening with regard to border laws. For example, right now on Capitol Hill, Republicans are saying either you fix the border or you can't have any money for the things you care about. Nothing's going to move. The House is going to be, just locking down, and we're not going to accomplish anything, any of the things that you want, including funding for Ukraine, funding for Israel. You can't have it until we do something about the border. Negotiations are ongoing right now. Now, I hope they hold to their guns, but this is being noticed by the people who want to come here and take advantage of the laxness on the border. They want to come across as fast as they can. They're also watching the elections, and they know that there's a pretty good chance that Joe Biden is not going to be reelected, and there will be a new president, and the new president will do everything that needs to be done to shut down the border. And so they figure, well, I better get across while I can. 300,000 times 12. That's 3.6 million people if we keep up that pace. 3.6 million people. Here's another statistic that will shock you. We've been keeping the new fiscal year the federal government's fiscal year starts in October 1. And so it's been October, November, December. So the first quarter of the new fiscal year with the federal government, 785,000 immigration encounters by the Border Patrol and the folks down there on the border. 785,000 doesn't even count the gotaways, the ones who got through that we didn't have an encounter with. So it's probably right around a million. I would say close to it. 1 million people. But let's just stick with that 785,000 number. That's as many people as live in Seattle. That's like a whole city the size of Seattle being allowed to find its way into America. It's almost about the same size as as Davidson County, population-wise. Davidson County's what, 700,000? That about right? Yeah, I think it's right.
Yep.
So it's a little, it's more than the number of people who live in Davidson County, Nashville. Pretty amazing. Well, that pace, if you multiply that out, let's say, so that's 1 quarter, right? 785,000 times 4 equals 3.14 million. 3.14 million. Whew. 3 million and change. We can't keep this up. And mayors around the country where a lot of these folks are ending up are upset. Now they say they're upset with Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, because he keeps shipping them to, blue cities so that they can feel some of the pain we're feeling down on the border. They, by the way, said they were sanctuary cities. I guess they didn't really mean it. Here's the dim mayors talking about all this. They're upset.
An international and federal crisis that local governments are being asked to subsidize, and this is unsustainable.
When you're talking about 10% of the budget to allocate for cities on this, that's unsustainable. When we have every single hotel room in the city full of migrants that have arrived, that's unsustainable.
The federal government said to New York City, we're not going to do our job, you do our job. You take care of 4,000 people a week, Eric.
4,000 people a week. And at least Eric Adams there in New York, he's talking about the federal government, but most of these others are just talking about, well, Texas. Well, here's the thing. In New York City, the migrants that have been sent to New York City on a bus or a plane or however they get there is about 10% of the migrants who have landed there. The rest of them, how did they get there? Well, they got there on their own, or they got some travel arrangements made by the Biden administration. Why are they angry at Governor Abbott when he's only responsible for about 10% of the problem? Shouldn't they be talking about, the Biden administration? Shouldn't they be upset with them? At least Adams is talking about the federal government's not doing its job. And that's right. The federal government is not doing its job. Hard to be angry at Greg Abbott for taking advantage of the largesse of these sanctuary cities. They said they were sanctuary cities. We thought you meant it. I guess they didn't. What a mess. What a mess. All right. Karine Jean-Pierre never fails to just enrage me when she talks about this issue.
It is shameful that a Republican Governor Abbott in Texas, is using migrants as a political stunt. That's what he's been doing.
So you're referring to the busing of migrants to northern cities?
Absolutely. And the busing of migrants, the putting them on flights, it is shameful that is occurring. And instead of, if the governor really truly wants to deal with this issue, he should talk to the senators in his state and actually ask them to work with us. Look, what we're seeing right now is negotiations happening on the Senate side to talk about how do we come up with a bipartisan agreement to deal with border security. There's a reason why the president put that in his emergency ask, right, in the national security supplemental ask, because he thought it was incredibly important. In a couple of weeks, we're about to hit 3 years since the president put forward an immigration comprehensive legislation, put that forward to Congress. Nothing was done on it.
Whoa. I'm sorry. I just can't let her get away with that part of it. Listen. It is true that the president put forth an immigration package shortly after he took the oath of office. It is also true, and what she doesn't seem to tell you and doesn't want you to know, is that it was completely unworkable. I mean, what they wanted was to rework immigration so that all of these people coming across the border would instantly get amnesty. That's basically what they wanted. They wanted a pathway to citizenship for everybody who's coming to this country illegally. I don't think that's the way you do it. And I don't think the Republicans on Capitol Hill believe that's the way. So it was a proposal they put forward, but it wasn't a serious proposal because it could never pass. So you know what? When you throw up a ridiculous idea and Republicans turn their nose up and say, no, we can't do that. And by the way, a fair number of Democrats, I'm not sure he could get a lot of Democrat support for some of that. It's not fair then to say, well, it's all on Congress because we put together our proposal. Well, when you put together a proposal that everybody thinks is stupid, then yeah, I guess you did, you can say that, but it's not a workable proposal. They have hemmed and hawed, and they've laid, and nobody ever challenges them on that. Where are the reporters who say, well, wait. Governor Abbott's responsible for about 10% of the migrants that have been moved into New York City. You know, what about the other 90%? Why are you angry at Governor Abbott? Why aren't you angry at the president for not keeping our borders secure? And yeah, you talk about, well, we put together a proposal. It was an unworkable proposal. It never could get the votes. It was dead the moment it was sent to Capitol Hill, and they know it. But now they get to look, well, we tried. We put together a proposal, and Congress turned their nose up at it. Well, they should have, because it was a bad proposal.
President put forward a comprehensive immigration plan because he believed that the system is broken, the immigration system is broken, and it's been broken for decades. Now we are having, we believe, a very productive conversation in Congress with senators on how do we move forward in a bipartisan agreement to deal with the border security. That is important. Now, what we hope is that when Congress gets back, we'll be able to act and get these things moving forward so we can deal with this issue. Congress needs to act. The president took this very seriously on day one.
Yeah, okay. Oh, boy, that makes me mad. I can't believe how mad that makes me that she tries to get away with that. Look, I hope the Republicans hold their ground. I hope that they do not let anything move on Capitol Hill. They stand in the way as obstructionist as you want to be. Just be obstructionist. That's fine. By the way, I had an interesting conversation the other day. Somebody on social media, you know, those conversations always go so well. And somebody said, you know, this is a do-nothing Congress. I said, yeah. And the problem with that is, you know, you should look at quality, not quantity. The measure of a good Congress or effective leadership in Washington is not how many bills you pass, but what kind of bills you pass. And they said, well, there's not quantity or quality. And I said, well, I'm okay with that too, because I believe that the government which governs best is that which governs least. And if a Congress is not passing a lot of bills right now, that's just fine with me. I would rather that be the case, quite frankly. And by the way, the reason why there's not much happening on Capitol Hill is because the people who sent members to represent them in Congress from all over this country voted for gridlock. A divided government. You got Republicans controlling the House. You got Democrats controlling the Senate. In both bodies, you know, the margins are not really big. When you have divided government like that, you are voting for gridlock. So the people are getting what they voted for. I'm off topic, but nonetheless. I'll give you some more stuff about the border in just a moment. 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Hey, happy New Year from Johnny Fleeman's and the folks at the Brass Lantern and the Legends Restaurant, celebrating 35 years serving Middle Tennessee and surrounding areas. They'd like to thank everyone and wish everyone a happy New Year. And to celebrate their 35 years, they want me to tell you about their specials that are served all day for a limited time. Mondays, you have fresh breaded chicken fingers with fries and coleslaw, $8.99. Tuesday featuring slow-cooked 8-ounce prime rib. Ooh, that sounds good. And a side for $18.99. Wednesday is their 6-ounce choice sirloin with a side for only $8.99. Hamburger steak on Thursday, $8.99. Sundays, 3 pasta dinners to choose from, $9.99. Remember, for over 35 years, the Brass Lantern and Legends restaurants have been authentic, made from scratch, and delicious recipes at affordable prices. Hope you enjoyed the good food and service, and don't forget the daily lunch specials starting at $6.99. Also, don't forget to pick up some of those delicious Johnny Fleeman products at your local grocery store. The Brass Lantern and the Legends Restaurant, celebrating 35 years. You're going to enjoy your next visit to either one of these fine, fine restaurants. Thank you, Joan Jones. News coming up here in just a few moments. We're continuing to talk about the situation on the southern border, and there's a couple, 2 or 3 great stories here. I love this. The Biden administration is asking the Supreme Court to remove razor wire at the southern border. Now, there's been a whole big case, and it's gone both ways. But where it stands right now is that the folks in Texas want to put up this concertina wire to keep people from coming across the border, because they want to stop people from coming across the border because the federal government's not doing its job. It's gone back and forth in the courts. Where it stands right now is the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, late in December, halted a lower court order that gave Border Patrol agents the green light to cut concertina wire. In other words, the U.S. Court of Appeals halted the federal government from cutting the wire. They said you can't do that. And that's the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. That is one court below the Supreme Court. Well, now comes the word that the Biden administration is asking the Supreme Court to lift that injunction and to take up the question, arguing that the barriers inhibit Border Patrol agents from crossing and arresting illegal immigrants. They're not arresting any. That's the problem. They're just handing them a piece of paper and sending them on their way. If they were arresting them and sending them back, then maybe we wouldn't need this. They say Texas placement of the wire near the riverbank and Eagle Pass has proved particularly problematic for Border Patrol agents, the Justice Department wrote in its petition on Tuesday. I think they should be very careful about what they ask for. With a 6-3 conservative court, they've not yet wanted to take up this question, but the Biden administration, through its Justice Department, is now asking the Supreme Court to take up the matter to overturn the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals and give the Border Patrol, once again, and federal agencies the right to cut Texas's concertina wire. So we'll see how that goes. You know, the high court is under no obligation to pick it up, and that would be the easiest thing. They say, no, we think that the lower court decided it right. We don't care to pick up that matter, and just let the lower court ruling stand. That would be the quickest way. If they take it up, the high court then can look at all kinds of things about the way the federal government is protecting our border. And I think they got to be careful about what they ask for. So there's that. Illegal immigrants. You know how Abbott's been sending people up by bus to New York City, right? And then the mayor of New York said, well, if we're going to sue the bus companies, if they come in here with immigrants and drop them off, and we're going to sue them. The bus companies told the state of Texas, we can't do this anymore. We can't afford to be sued. We don't need the hassle. We don't need the lawsuits. We don't need the expense of defending ourselves. So we're not going to deliver anymore. And so for a while, they were like, for example, in Chicago, they were flying people into Chicago O'Hare Airport to avoid having to send the buses in. But they came up with a better idea for New York City. They drive them on a bus to New Jersey. And they let them out in New Jersey and right at the train station. Here's the train station. That train will take you to New York City in about 25, 30 minutes. You'll be in New York City. So they're not entering, the buses are not entering New York. They're entering New Jersey. And then when they get to New Jersey, they're told, there's the train station. New York is 25 minutes that way. And folks in New Jersey, if you can just get to Secaucus, then you can find your way into New York City. Nobody wants to go to Secaucus, but, that's the way it goes. And it's interesting. People wonder, well, has it been effective what the governors of New York and some other states are doing by sending the immigrants on a bus or plane or however they get there to these blue cities? The folks at CNN have finally decided that it did. And it shows just how they're actually now starting to cover in a way they did not cover before, just how egregious the problem is. And they're very alarmed about how Joe Biden's approval ratings on immigration have tanked. It's the big issue, one of the big issues, the economy, number one, and the border, number two. And CNN admits in their conversations that what those governors did brought this issue to the forefront and brought pressure to bear on the administration. And I think that they did exactly the right thing. And I continue to support what they did in Texas. It's, believe me, the rest of the nation, if they say you're a sanctuary city, all right, then put your money where your mouth is. 31 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. You know, many of you have lived here a long time. You know about Eurofix. They've been in Middle Tennessee, the place to go for your European car needs for 24 years, and you've gotten to watch them grow. Oh, I don't know about you, but I love it when a hometown business takes off and does well. They are now proud to announce their new location. Well, it's still relatively new. Mount Juliet is their location for the next Eurofix, right across the street from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now, of course, Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic who started in a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations, repairing thousands, that's right, thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So call this number, 844-EUROFIX, 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you. "39 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. We've got just a little time left here before we hand it over to Mark Levin at the top of the hour. I bring you news and information, and then Mark Levin will carry on through the evening. This is the first show of the new year. Happy New Year to you. I hope that you had a great holiday with friends and family. Hope that you ate some black-eyed peas and some collard greens and whatever else. It was jambalaya at my house. It was pretty good.
Mine was kind of a similar to that. It was I'm not sure what the name of it was, but it had the black-eyed peas, the greens, and the sausage, and I think some corn and other veggies all in it. So it was like a big stew that had all the good New Year's stuff in it.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's good. So they collard. When I went to D.C. Just if I was raised in Texas. And spent most of my years before I got to D.C. either in Texas or in the South. And Mobile was where I went before I went to Washington. And I rolled into the newsroom, and I don't know, the first New Year's that came along, I said to somebody at the assignment desk, I said, "Hey, have you guys gonna get any black-eyed peas?" They said, "What for?" And I said, "You're kidding me, right?" They said, "No. What are black-eyed peas?" I'm serious.
Come on.
You think I'm kidding, but I'm not. They looked at me with all sincerity and said, "I've never heard of black-eyed peas. What are black-eyed peas?" I said, "You've never had black-eyed peas?" "No, we haven't."
That's crazy.
So I said, well, in the South, where I'm from, and in Texas, where I'm from, you eat some black-eyed peas for good luck. It's a tradition. And you don't go, you're going to eat you some black-eyed peas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what you're going to do. So I brought in a crock pot of black-eyed peas because I happened to be working the holiday. I had to work New Year's Day. And I brought in a big pot of black-eyed peas, and they hated them.
Oh.
But anyway, everybody said, all you do is take one bite. That's all you got to take, But I was shocked that they'd never heard of such a thing.
They just don't have a sophisticated enough palate to enjoy.
I guess
that
that's
good
it.
stuff.
And that's when I found out, I won't go down this path except to say it was then that I learned that they had no understanding of what cornbread dressing was. And that began my lifelong mission to be an evangelist for cornbread dressing. And I will say they liked the cornbread dressing. They didn't care much for the black-eyed peas.
I can only imagine what would have happened if you'd have brought the collard greens with you.
Oh, I know. They would have played. I'm not eating that. Man, I'm telling you, good stuff. I've got a lot of election news that I want to go through here. Let me run through some numbers. And I won't bore you with a lot of numbers, but I think they are telling. Donald Trump is still in a very strong position nationally to win the nomination for the Republican nomination and to be the standard bearer of the Republican Party. According to a Suffolk USA Today poll, Trump leads the others by 49 points. The RCP, Real Clear Politics average, nationally, Trump leads the others by, on average, 51.3 points. So I'm telling you, it's going to be hard to overcome that. I don't see any way that Trump is not the nominee the way it stands right now. I just want to throw up this little caveat, and let me just throw this at you. I think the way it looks today, Trump is the nominee for Republicans and Biden is the nominee for the Democrats. And if that's the case, then Real Clear Politics average of poll says that Trump is leading right now by about 2.3. Not a lot, but leading. In some polls, it's a lot more, but that's basically the averages within the margin of error. But in New Hampshire, something is going on with Nikki Haley. In New Hampshire, which is the second place you stop, you go to Iowa, then you go straight to New Hampshire. Trump has 46.3. Haley has 24.8. Now you say, well, that's still 20 points, and that's a heavy lift. I said, yeah, it'd be a heavy lift to come up with 20 points. But what you need to understand is that New Hampshire is second. Chris Christie is got 10 points support in New Hampshire. Ramaswamy, I think, is 16. Now, if you add 16, I'm sorry, Ramaswamy is 6. So you add Chris Christie's 10 and Ramaswamy's 6, you got 16. And if Christie and Ramaswamy were to drop out after Iowa, then their 10 or 16 points would have to go somewhere. And if they landed on Nikki Haley, well, then it gets close, a lot closer. So Haley could make a fairly strong showing in New Hampshire. And by the way, she is really working it hard in New Hampshire, and she's got the money to do it. So I want to make sure, because I sort of bungled that up. Trump 46, Haley 24, Christie 10, Ramaswamy 6. Right now, Haley has to come up with 21 points to catch Trump. But if Christie and Ramaswamy drop out and their support went to Haley, it would be very tight, or a lot tighter. I can't do the math in my head. What is that? I have this. Lucky I have my iPhone here. Christie, so it's 16 plus 24.5 plus 16 equals 40. So it'd be 40 for Haley and 46 for Trump. Now, I don't know that any of that's going to happen. I can see scenarios where that would happen. I mean, Ramaswamy can't even make the debate stage for the next GOP debate because he hasn't got enough support. Neither can Christie. Neither can anybody else. So if all of those people that are going to fall off the table at some point were to send their support in the direction of Nikki Haley, then it would be very tight in New Hampshire. Now, I don't see that happening in other places, but when you get down to, again, a situation in all of these states where Nikki Haley is, nipping at his heels and something happens, then Nikki Haley might gain enough traction to make this a real race. Right now, it's not a race. A lot of ifs, but are you with me? Watch New Hampshire. Something might happen there. But as far as Iowa, which is the first thing that happens, and it happens in just 13 days, it looks like Trump's going to run away with it. He's been building a support there. I got a story here about that. Hang on. But Trump is growing stronger in Iowa. Why? Hill.com. Former President Trump's lead in the first presidential contest state of Iowa is growing less than 2 weeks before the caucuses. The Hill Decision Desk shows Trump leading the field with a 51.6% support for 51.6% for Trump. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley trail 18% each. 18% for DeSantis, 17.1% for Nikki Haley. Trump's status as the party's de facto incumbent, along with Iowa's deeply conservative GOP base, create a fertile ground for the former president. Regardless, his campaign isn't taking any chances, crisscrossing the state for events with and without him. The former president notably lost Iowa in the 2016 presidential caucuses, making this year's event even more critical for him as he looks to wrap up the nomination as soon as possible. Trump wants to be a knockout blow, said Jimmy Sinters, an Iowa-based Republican strategist. The sooner you can move on to the general and secure the nomination, the better off your campaign will be. One of the most telling signs of this strategy came Tuesday when Fox announced that Trump would be taking part in a town hall on the network, counter-programming the CNN primary debate in which only Haley and DeSantis will participate. That should tell you everything you need to know about Iowa, a Republican strategist said. By the way, that's a brilliant move by Trump. If I were Trump, I would have done the same thing. Why go on a debate stage and take all of that flack from Nikki Haley, take a bunch of flack from Ron DeSantis? They're just going to come at you. You're going to be the target. Or, alternatively, let them bash each other the brains out, and you go over on Fox, and everybody watching Fox, and nobody's going to be watching CNN. Smart move. Really smart move. Like I say, sometimes this guy's playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. By the way, this Fox town hall will be on the same day, January 10th, same time as the CNN debate. Brett Baer, Martha McCallum will co-moderate the Trump town hall. It will be the first time since May of 2020 when Trump last sat down for an interview with the two. Just 5 days before the Iowa caucus. Is that it? What is the plural of caucus?
I hope not, because that sounds weird.
Hawkeye. How about we just say caucuses? I'm sure that's correct. He held a competing event during the first three GOP debates, and it was co-sponsored by Fox. But, everybody, I think, sort of peeked in to see how that the first debate was going to go among some of the Republican wannabes. But, everybody knows it's going to be Trump. It's going to be Trump. It's going to be Trump.
By the way, it is caucuses.
Caucuses.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Here's bad news for Joe Biden. Really bad news. He is losing Black and Hispanic voters and young voters. Now, this is part of the coalition that did so well for him in 2020. In 2020, are you ready? Joe Biden had 87% of the Black vote. Today, he has 63%. Now, that's bad because Black voters have long been, a reliable vote block for the Democrat Party. The interesting thing is they're not necessarily going over to Trump. Trump has 12% support among Blacks, according to a USA Today poll. 12%. That's exactly what he had in the last election, 12%. So where are the black voters going? It seems that black voters have said that they're going to vote for a third-party candidate. Robert F. Kennedy. Is there going to be a no labels candidate? Is somebody else out there? They're going to vote for anybody but Biden. And he's going to lose a lot of his black votes. Now, in Hispanic vote, it's even worse. Biden had, a lot of support among Hispanic voters in the last election. But right now, Trump leads Biden by 5% with Hispanic voters. Isn't that interesting? You would think that, I think the Democrats believe that because of their border policy, that a lot of Hispanics would be very supportive of the Biden administration. Turns out they're really not. They the people who are here legally, Hispanics, really resent what's happening on the border right now. And these are the folks who can vote, the Hispanics who can vote, the people who are here illegally, so they say, are not able to vote. So he's down 5 percentage points with the Hispanics. Young voters, about the same amount. I'm sorry, no, it's about 4 points. Young voters under the age of 35 are going to vote for Donald Trump more than they will vote for Joe Biden. This is a poll of 1,000 likely voters conducted by landline and cell phone. It showed a huge enthusiasm gap between Trump and Biden. The poll showed that 44% of Trump supporters described themselves as 10 on a thermometer measuring enthusiasm, the highest possible level, but Biden supporters, only 18% called themselves a 10. Only 18% of Democrats are excited about voting for Joe Biden. Who are these people? Are they paying attention? I don't know. A Trump supporter told USA Today, Donald Trump has integrity. Biden and the Democrats always bringing up Donald Trump. He's not even doing anything, and they're blaming things on himself. The poll showed that Vice President Kamala Harris got lower job approval rating than Biden among black voters, and she's black. 56% compared to Biden, 68%. So if Kamala becomes the nominee, fewer black people will vote for Kamala. She is also less popular among young voters, 27% compared to Biden's 32%. So if Biden says he can't do it, they're definitely not going to give it to Kamala. It's not going to be Kamala at all. How you work that out, I don't know. It seems pretty clear to me that the way they're going to have to be able to solve this thing is they're going to have to make a switcheroo at convention. See, the moment that you have Joe Biden saying, I'm out, I'm not running for re-election, he loses all the power that he has. He's a lame duck, essentially, and everybody will say, just ride him out. He's going to be gone soon. Nothing's going to get accomplished. He's a lame duck president. We'll wait till he's gone. We'll deal with the new president, and the new president could very well be Donald Trump. So, that's why he doesn't do it now. But he wants to push that off as long as possible. The last possible place he can make that change is at the convention. After a lot of soul searching, I now come to the conclusion that I am not the best nominee and we need somebody else. And then they do the old switcheroo at the convention. He goes out as being, the elder statesman who got them through and beat Trump. And now it's time for somebody else, a younger person, to pick up the reins. And it will not be Kamala Harris. Gavin Newsom, probably. I don't know, maybe some other names will emerge. But it's the old convention switcheroo, which is the last possible moment that Biden can do it. That's what I think is probably going to happen. I don't know. That's why I think it's going to be such an interesting election year. One of the things that we've heard is that there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of black voters are looking for a third-party candidate. And the real question is the No Labels Party going to have an actual candidate? Are they going to actually go forward with it? Joe Lieberman, who's in charge of that, says, only if we get good candidates. And there's been some talk, it was mentioned in the article, Joe Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, and maybe the former governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan. That would be interesting, but might be interesting to people in the middle. It certainly wouldn't be interesting to Republicans. It is 55 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Listen, we talk about gold, which has been used as money for millennia. It is a tried and true store of value and is consistent across generations. Generational wealth has three components: land, art, and precious metals. Land and art are hard to evaluate. Hey, but precious metals like gold, platinum, and silver, that's tangible. You can hold it in your hand. You know, inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money. And gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. You can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. Maybe you have gold that was given to you. You're not sure what it's worth. You're curious about precious metals and just want to learn more. They will always be there to discuss your options and to educate you about the precious metal market. So do what I did. I got a real education, learned a lot. Go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin. And by the way, if you have old coins laying around the house, bring them along because they'll tell you what they're worth. NashvilleGoldandCoin.com for your one-on-one appointment.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.